Okay. All right. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to DRI's EnergySmart Education Thermodynamics Workshop. My name is Shauna. I am a STEM education coordinator at the Desert Research Institute located in Las Vegas. I am in charge of the overall EnergySmart program that we have. It is sponsored through NV Energy and Southwest Gas to promote energy conservation education within the K through 12 school system.
Awesome. And my name is Monica Gehrig, and I also work at DRI, and I work with Shauna doing professional development and outreach. So yeah, so I'm happy to be here and be a part of the session. We have three co-presenters, three teachers that are here with us today. So I'm going to turn it over to Kristen first, and she can introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Kristen Weiss, and I teach fourth grade at CC Manili in Douglas County. And I was lucky enough to be able to go to the NEED conference this summer with DRI with some energy classes.
Hi, I'm Michelle Habdas. I am at Clayton Middle School in Reno, Nevada, and I teach 7th and 8th grade, and I was at the conference as well, so it's nice to see you all here.
Good morning. I'm Nathan Williams from Las Vegas High School here in Clark County, and just teach high school, same kind of program. We're excited that you guys are here today.
Alrighty, so to get started, here is a brief agenda of what to expect for this session. I will be going over, I've done our welcome and just kind of the energy resources that we have here in Nevada. From there, we'll kind of get into the explanation of the thermodynamics with a phenomenon explanation piece done by Nathan, and then we will go into an activity explanation of what you can do with this in your class. From there, I believe we have enough participants so that we can just stay in one group, and our teachers are going to really break it, our host teachers, Kristen, Nate, and Michelle, will really break it down by grade level of how you can match the NGSS standards to utilizing this hands-on activity. And from there, Monica will go over future programming that we have kind of in line with teaching energy education in the classroom. Before we begin, if you could please take a moment to scan or click on the link just dropped in the chat to fill out a pre-survey to kind of help us get an idea of where everyone's at in terms of tying NGSS standards to energy education, as well as if you already utilize energy education in your classroom or if you are kind of hoping to start. I'm going to go ahead and give about 2 minutes for that. It's a very short survey.
And while after you all complete the pre-survey too, if you could maybe in the chat just introduce yourself, maybe tell us where you're from and then which grade level you teach so that we can ensure we're hitting the necessary grade levels as we go through. That would be awesome. All right, cool. So Nancy works at Nevada Learning Academy online K-12. Awesome. So you work with all K-12 students? Right? Do you interact, I guess, with all of them is my question? Elementary. Okay, cool. Awesome. Hi, Samantha. So you teach third grade math and science at Coral Academy. That's wonderful. And coach robotics. That's awesome.
It is. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and continue on. Alrighty, so when it comes to our energy resources, a lot of students and teachers as well know about the renewable resources. So we have, because they're hot topics right now, solar power, hydropower, wind power, geothermal power, which we do have here in Nevada, biomass, and then tidal. Technically, tidal energy is also just a form of hydropower, just slightly different from how we typically get hydropower. And then we also have biomass, which is the use of, I guess technically wood would be a biomass, as well as corn. We're doing a lot of work with corn in terms of turning that into like an ethanol fuel source. And it's considered renewable because we're able to grow these plants at a rate that replenishes what we're using without it being at risk of running out. That is the definition of a renewable resource. Basically, you can utilize it without for a very, very long time and not run the risk of that resource running out before we use it all up. Next slide, please. So a lot of teachers have kind of moved away from teaching non-renewable resource examples because it's something that overall the world is really pushing towards using less of, especially since we know we're eventually going to run out. So an example of non-renewable resources are oil, coal, natural gas, and nuclear energy. So for the oil, coal, and natural gas, these are all resources that come from dead animals, basically. Millions of years ago, we had a bunch of microorganisms in the ocean, or dinosaurs that, you know, just kind of got buried, liquefied deep under the pressure of the earth, and eventually turned into either a form of oil, natural gas, or with coal, it was more your biomass, your ancient biomass that formed. And because it's a very ancient resource, that's not being renewed at all. And so we're essentially using it up, which is why we need to move away from it. Another reason is because they produce fairly harmful greenhouse gases. Nuclear energy actually burns off completely clean, interestingly enough. And if we didn't have all the political red tape around it, we could actually, scientists are pretty confident that we could take the waste of nuclear energy and figure out how to further utilize it to continue to burn it off as an energy source. So we do believe we can figure out the technology pretty quickly on how to make nuclear energy a renewable resource, almost under the definition of it not running out. It's just that because of catastrophic accidents in the past, there's a lot of red tape that just stops us from kind of advancing with that. And so it's kind of stuck in the non-renewable resource category. Here in Nevada, our main source of energy is actually natural gas. And the next slide, please. There it is. Okay. Here in Nevada, our biggest source of electricity is natural gas. From both Southwest Gas and NV Energy as well are both big natural gas users. We are slowly shutting down our coal plants, which is our second largest source of energy, which you can see is only at 4%. And we are working towards really upping our renewable energy portfolio. with solar already at almost 14%. Our geothermal plant, even though it's so low, it's still going pretty strong. And then several hydroelectric plants and wind plants as well that are producing a lot of electricity. Some fun facts about natural gas are, next slide, there we go. It's a fossil fuel energy source. It's largely composed of methane. And so what we do with natural gas is it does have other forms of gas within it. And what we do is we kind of we refine it and extract the methane for use. Does anyone want to drop in the chat some other sources of methane that they know of? Cow gas. I love it. Yeah, cow farts. That's the one that everyone knows about. So there are some scientists working on trying to capture the gas that cows produce, so that we can utilize that. And another big one that is in use is also from landfills. In landfills, as things decompose, it naturally produces a methane gas. And that is pretty harmful for the environment. So we have to so a lot of regulated landfills are required to capture that source of methane and essentially contain it or burn it off. But since we know it is a natural gas that we can utilize, there are some countries that are taking their landfill gases and using them as an actual source of natural gas. And then, yes, wetlands as well also produce natural gas. All right, next slide. So here in Nevada, our energy goal is to be 50% renewable by 2030. From the last slide, I believe it showed our portfolio was at about 25% almost in terms of where we're at for our renewable energy resources. And NV Energy is fairly confident that we will be able to reach that 50% renewable energy goal within the next, what is that, 6, 7 years? I can do math. Within the next 7 years, we will be at 50% renewable energy. All righty. Does anyone have any questions so far about energy resources here in Nevada? I wish I could see like typing dots so I would know. All right, so in that case, I'm going to hand it off to Nate, who is going to jump into heat transfer.
All right. Well, looks like we've got a couple of elementary teachers in here, so I'm trying to keep it at that level as best I can. So we're looking at heat transfer as the information we're trying to get our kids to understand. Next slide, please. All right, so here's our phenomenon piece. We've got an image of the door and we've got a thermal image of the door, and just putting it out there, right? Just some simple questions, how students make observations, help them understand what the different colors represent in the thermal image, and then have them start making predictions about what is happening and how this can affect what's happening in their home, how to save money, and ultimately with that connection that saving money on a power bill also saves the environment by reducing the amount of carbon emissions and greenhouse gas emissions, that the money we spend on our power bill very much relates back to improving our environment. And so here's our simple phenomenon piece. A couple of notes on phenomenon. Just want to make sure that we use this right. The phenomenon should be such that the students can make predictions and use this to get explanations. And those explanations should be can be given in a variety of different ways, from written responses to modeling to other forms of explanation.
Okay, so the best, a fun hands-on activity to help teach this is it's something called the House Design Challenge. And basically the challenge is to build your own little cardboard house and figure out what materials will best insulate it to either keep the heat of the sun out of the house or to keep the inside of the house cool. A lot of people, when it comes to actually saving energy in their house, they think of the more directly electric things like turning off lights, turning off fans, unplugging devices. But what a lot of people forget is that if your house is not properly insulated, your power bill is still going to be really high because you're running that air conditioning and all that cold air is just escaping. Or in the middle of the day when the sun's beating down on your house, a lot of that heat is just seeping through the walls due to a lack of proper insulation. All right, next slide. Okay, just kidding, not the next slide. So actually, can you stop screen recording for a moment so that I can be the main focus? And then let me see, speaker view. Okay. Okay. So for this challenge, typically use a cardboard box. However, for us, we decided to go with a bakery box, cake box, because that is something that children have an easier time cutting. If because we learned a lot of teachers are not going to trust their students with X-Acto knives versus scissors. And from there, you pretty much, your box is now your house. The wall, this is like your walls, your roof. They're going to cut out a door and then some windows for their house. And oh, I forgot. Thank you, Monica. We do have a document that you guys can access to kind of read through to follow the phenomenon. There it is. That one, okay. So the way we presented the House Design Challenge was a well-known neighborhood community, Belle Meb, is looking to develop an eco-friendly neighborhood here in Las Vegas. We held this hands-on in-person training in Vegas. With our summers getting hotter, they have opened up a bid with local architecture companies for new housing designs that best insulate against the heat of the sun. Your new company sees this as a great opportunity and is determined to win that bid, but in order to do so, you must figure out what materials will most efficiently insulate your house. So there are numerous guidelines on what your Belle Meb is looking for. In order to successfully enter your company for their consideration, you must build a model house that meets the following requirements. Is made out of the provided bakery box, has a minimum of 2 transparent windows that are at least so big, have one door that is at least 3 centimeters by 6 centimeters that can open and close. The floor and wall insulation can only be so thick. And then the ceiling must be at least 4 centimeters above the top of the door frame. And there can be no exposed insulation. Once your students are done insulating their walls, they have to tuck it away behind cardstock walls, floor, and ceiling to give it a nice finished look. And then the winner of this bid will be the house that experiences the smallest internal temperature change once you place your cardboard box house under a heat lamp. So for the procedure, students will assemble their bakery boxes and use various materials to insulate their walls and floor and ceiling. And so for that, if you go to page, the next page, 3, there's a list of materials that we had used. So we had like styrofoam wrapping, bubble wrap, something called honeycomb paper, which is like a packing paper that you can like stretch out and honeycomb to provide, it's more safety for shipping, but the air pockets are something that older students can kind of consider. We also had just standard cardboard pieces, as well as, what else do I have in here? Bubble wrap, and then wood in the form of just popsicle sticks. And so in order to kind of incorporate math into the activity, we gave a charge for every bit of insulation that students took back to their stations to use. So they could go up and look at all these different materials, and anything that they took back with them to their table for their group to use came with a cost. From there, a really great way to kind of further incorporate math is, and as well as the concept of not wasting, is like there's a buyback program where as the challenge goes underway, they can kind of sell back some of their unused materials. And then especially if you're limited on materials, other students can then go through and use those recycled materials for their houses as well. And let me see, can you go ahead and reshare your screen, please, Monica? Okay, so we provided a list of the material costs for this activity. This is like the teacher cost, so to speak. We kind of broke down, everything was found on Amazon and the general prices of what they are. So for these things, like you can go like heavy bulk, and these will last you probably several years worth of housing activity lessons. Next slide, please. And then here's some photos of of us doing it in person in Vegas with our teachers. They had a lot of fun, both coming up with ways to design their house, and really just concepts that some people don't think of, such as turning your house sideways to give you more ceiling insulation space, as well as actually just providing shade. So for elementary students, one of the standards is kind of understanding how you can block the sunlight to stop heat transfer in terms of umbrellas, window shades. And so in just raising the roof on your house to provide a shaded overhang, that actually went a long way in keeping the house cooler. Another thing that we did to kind of make the activity more interesting was we provided small bags of ice, or I guess actually we had Otter Pops on site. So we gave everyone an Otter Pop, a frozen Otter Pop, to stick inside their house to act as the air conditioning. With this, it was actually really interesting because we found that the houses that did not properly insulate, at the very end of the activity, there was only a 1 to 2 degree difference between the houses that had air conditioning versus those that didn't, that just really well insulated and shaded their cardboard boxes. So once they're done constructing, we have aquarium thermometers that they were able to stick inside to get a room temperature reading. And then they moved their houses under the heat lamps for a set amount of time, however much time that can be determined by you. And at the end of that set time, we took a second reading, and whoever had the least amount of difference won. However, when we did this, it was more exploratory, just to see okay, if you put ice inside of your house, would that make a difference? And then a lot of people were kind of determining well, if my house is directly under the sun versus the sun being at an angle. There's a lot of exploration pieces you can do with this versus just making it a competition, because a lot of children as well as adults get really heated when you turn it into a contest, to the point of, sometimes it's easier just to be what do you think will happen versus having a winner for the contest. And next slide. Oh, just kidding. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and pass it off to our teachers, who are going to help you guys kind of better on how to further implement this activity within the grade levels, as well as kind of meeting the NGSS standards while doing so by grade level. So I don't know.
Shauna,
Yeah.
Just before we jump into that, should we ask, does anyone have any questions about the activity or how to facilitate it or materials or anything like that? Maybe we could ask too, have you seen this activity before? Have you tried it out with your students? Did you have success? Or is this something that you're excited to try with your students? It seems fun. And just while we're waiting for all new to me, cool. Are you excited about it, Heather? Does it seem like it would be a good activity to facilitate in your class? And just while we're waiting for other people to respond, I do want to let you all know that we have a folder that has this listed in it, as well as all the standards that are about to be covered by our teachers, as well as just some other informational documents. So we will we'll be sharing that with you as well. So you'll have all of this information and just a general folder as well. Cool. Excited to try it out. It'd be very engaging. Awesome. Well, thank you very much for sharing that. Okay, Shauna, sorry to interrupt.
You're totally fine. I think it's very engaging to students too, because especially if you throw in, like, even if your house does poorly, if it looks pretty, you might still get more points for it. Because you'll always have those students who are more focused on the art piece than the actual science, let me insulate my house piece. All right, so from there, let's start at the elementary level and kind of work our way up.
All right, so I have done this in my classroom a couple of times over the last couple of years. Last year, I actually did this unit, and then I went into my renewable energy, and I definitely am going to swap that this year, where we have that foundation of the solar and wind and hydro before going into it. With my kiddos in elementary, I just used paper templates. So I just created a template that they cut out, and then I had them actually glue it onto a regular piece of paper that had like north, south, east, and west, so that we were controlling some of our variables a little bit more with the elementary kiddos. In my class, I had bubble wrap. We used cotton balls. I had denim insulation, aluminum foil. So some things that were a little bit easier for the kiddos to manipulate with not so much X-Acto knives and things, for a little bit more safety in the classroom. I didn't think about the cake boxes, which I know DRI did down in Vegas. I may try those this year, but I think just the regular cardboard is just too much for that grade level. But it's meeting third, fourth, and fifth grade standards, talking about making observations, checking outcomes, making changes, a lot of engineering. So I had my kiddos build this. And actually, before I even started with the building piece, I did just a properties sort. So I had them just wanting to talk about how we can sort different properties. The first year I did it, I just had like little cards with different colors, pictures of fish, TVs, cars, and had them sort these based on color, shapes, if they were natural things. And then we worked on that last year. It was a little bit more successful. I just gathered things around the classroom like marbles and paper clips and attribute blocks, and did that where it was more hands-on. That seemed to be a little bit more successful when we were just talking about properties and attributes. Then we got into the building side of it. And again, there's a lot of math that can be done with this, with the thermometers when the kids are measuring, making graphs, having them read the graphs. The aquarium thermometers are good tools. They need to know how to read them, but the kids also really like the infrared, and probably a little bit more accurate with that. Again, this is a whole nother safety, like, where are these being pointed and things around the classroom. Another math piece, once you have the heat lamps going, we used protractors and string to measure degrees and angles, and talked about what different degrees we had. And we had some that were going straight down, some were at 30 degrees, some at 45. So again, just some variations where you can bring in some more of those math pieces with the kids. I have not done it with the ice, but I do plan on doing that this year. So we'll see how that goes. And then this year too, I'm planning on doing this around Christmas time. And so at the end, I was just thinking how I can integrate this with even a circuit unit where maybe they are creating some Christmas lights or outdoor decorations or something that can go along with their houses. And the kids really do get into, a lot of them want to build trees. They want to build houses with the sticks, or not houses, I'm sorry, fences, chimneys. So they really do get into the whole art piece. But I just thought, like the circuits this year, I'm going to try that with some Christmas lights and decorations with the house this year. And then another thing, I'm sorry, let me backtrack a little bit too. Before we started building, I also, with all of the pieces that they had with the cotton balls and aluminum foil, with the properties piece, I had them lay all of those items out onto a heating pad. And then they were taking temperatures every 5 minutes for 20 minutes just to see what the difference and change would be before they started building, to see if they could transfer that knowledge of, which ones were holding in the heat the most. So another thing that you can bring in, and again, adding more math, keeping track of the temperatures and the differentiation between that. And then just bringing in kind of an art or a kinesthetic piece at the end. Just having the kids like all get in one big group or clump, and then having one or two kids try to wiggle their way through to see, like, the closer that everything is, the harder it's to get through. And then if they spread out, they're able to come a little bit more through that. So doing that physically, you could also do that on a piece of paper with like rubber stamps, or having them draw pictures that are really bunched in close together and trying to get through the maze or further apart, just to kind of make some connections. So that is what I have done and tried and want to try in my classroom. Again, I teach 4th grade. So if there's any other questions or comments, things that you've tried that I can try in my classroom as well, I'm always open.
All right, we have one question. What was your biggest challenge?
The biggest challenge, and I don't know if it was just me as overprotective, was the heat lamps, just like for safety purposes. The heat lamps, and then also the infrared, because you always still have those kids, even though you tell them, 100 times not to point them at each other. The building part with the paper wasn't so bad. I was a little bit worried about them cutting out the templates. With regular paper, it wasn't too big of an ordeal. I do know the teacher across the hall from me was doing a solar oven lesson this last week, and with cardboard boxes, pizza boxes. And the kids were pretty successful with that, with just those little rotor saws. So I'm hoping that when I try it this year with the pastry boxes, we'll be a little bit successful, because even the pizza box is a little bit thinner. They were able to manipulate that. So I don't know. I was always worried about them. It's more of a safety thing, worried about if they're going to cut themselves using the knives or X-Acto knives and things like that. But the kids love it. They like just take off and go. It's amazing what they can come up with.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, moving on to the middle school level with Michelle.
I don't know how much we really want to dive into it, since Kristen did such a great job on elementary. Is there anyone here now that is middle school that wants that, like, especially higher detailed account of how it fits in? Otherwise, I could just share a few extra ideas I had.
Michelle, I think it could be helpful to talk a little bit about middle school, since this is being recorded. Maybe when it's shared out, maybe a middle school or high school teacher will come across it and be happy.
Okay, well, I'll go over it real quickly, and then just add on a few extra ideas I did have for the elementary school folks as well. I was trying to find it while I was looking. There is a really good box cutter on Amazon, which is Safety. And I don't know if you guys have seen it. I think I just found it, so I'm going to drop the link in there. So if you are using cardboard, it's something that I think works really well with the students. It's like it protects the blade. So let me drop that in there real quick. I hope that works. Looks like a huge link. Yeah, so it protects students from the blade, and it's kind of like a little rotary blade. And that thing has been amazing. It saved me so many times on cutting cardboard materials. So if you guys do choose to cut cardboard, because I tend to like to do projects like this with as many recyclable materials as possible. I'm not one for going out and getting pizza boxes or bakery boxes or anything extra, because I really like to try and deal with what we already have. And so we'll take the Amazon boxes that all the parents bring in or all that kind of stuff. And then since those are thicker, it does pose a problem for even middle school students with their scissors and cutting. So that's a really nice tool to add in. The way this fits into middle school standards is that the culminating project, being the house, is really the thermal energy transfer is really PS1 or PS, let me see, 3-3. It's like minimizing thermal energy transfer. And so prior to building the house and doing all of the work that you guys just saw, I would be teaching and working with my students on a lot of the other lessons that come before that. And those lessons would be talking about how matter moves at different temperatures. So the movement of the particles, how particles move faster and slower. And so then students could tie in heat and movement of particles. There's also a lot of standards that tie into waves. And so we'd be looking at how the sunlight waves as they hit, even though it's electromagnetic waves are not specifically addressed, just waves in general are in middle school. We look at how waves are reflected and refracted and absorbed. So I definitely would do the whole testing of materials prior to building, just like was mentioned. And we test the material, see what the properties of the different materials are, which ones act as better insulators, and use it that way. I think that they posted a link to all of the standards that I felt like really could apply well in middle school. And then I wrote up an explanation with each of those standards. So if anyone is watching this after the fact, hopefully they'll have access. I don't know, do you guys know, will they have access to these documents then after the fact?
I think the chat gets saved and posted, so they should be able to.
Okay, perfect.
Watching the recording, look for a link of the saved chat.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah. Because so I really did, I look at each of the standards and then write up how I would use it in my classroom, how I've used it in my classroom, and so forth. Some other ideas I was just writing down that as I was thinking more towards elementary school to try and be as helpful to the people here is a lot of it was mentioned. My students too in middle school love building the trees and the awnings and all that kind of stuff, and really tying that in. And something we found out at the conference was the importance of the ceiling space and insulating the ceiling space versus leaving the ceiling space totally uninsulated, and how that affects the heating in the house. And so with my middle schoolers, I think I would let them figure that out on their own. I don't know if with elementary school, they could as well, I'm sure. But it's super neat to just see that how when you have these beautiful big ceilings above you and you can like look up and see all the, all the space, all that space needs to be heated or cooled. And so that's a huge waste actually of energy if your house is not insulated efficiently. I guess in middle school, we tied into seasons as well. It's a lot of what was really, it just builds on all of the elementary school standards. So if they're getting experience with this in elementary school, it's gonna be awesome when they get to try it again in middle school. So if anyone has any questions or anything? All right.
Thank you, Michelle. All right, and then last up we have Nate with our high school level standards.
All right. Well, for our high school standards, and I know this is the link is going to go in the chat in just a minute here. So just wanted to say a couple of things. First of all, it's really nice to have projects that can scale up at the different levels from elementary to middle to high school. Give students a chance to rethink what they've done and re-engineer what they're doing. So one of the key standards that's applicable here is, of course, the engineering standards. Those, of course, apply. And then when we look at the standards, the high school standards that this works, we're looking at the transfer of energy as one of the main components, along with the mathematical calculations that are needed to address that. And I did set up in your notes the equations and some of the standard measurements that you're going to need in order to make those calculations work at the high school level, along with my big note, which is to make sure you take the time as you're doing those calculations to have the students run those calculations in a spreadsheet like Google Sheets, so that the students are learning not only the mathematics, but how to set those equations up in a spreadsheet. And then I would use this at the high school level. I would use this as the introductory phenomenon piece to get students thinking about how heat transfers, and have them asking those questions that then could be followed up with the more specific exploratory ideas, like using a calorimeter to measure the exact amount of energy transfer between two substances, which would then meet the high school standard. Any questions?
All right, thank you, Nate. Okay, and then Monica, if you could please share your screen again. Thank you. All right, we are going to go ahead and wrap things up with an overview of some of what DRI can offer you in terms of continuing to teach energy conservation in your classroom beyond just this activity. We have a whole list of EnergySmart education programs that run mostly in fall, but do extend throughout the entire school year. Right now, we are taking signups for our theater program. So this year it is the EnergySmart Theater Program. It is a virtual showcase of a musical theater piece that we created during COVID that just basically teaches 2nd through 3rd graders about how they can save energy in the home. And so what we do is we would sign on to your class's Google link, Google Meets link, or Zoom link, depending on your district, show the video, and then following that video, we actually have one of the actors from the show sign on as well to answer any of the kids' questions about saving energy and water in the home. This program is open to 2nd through 3rd grade, and we do encourage that if one teacher signs up, they invite the rest of the 2nd and 3rd grade classes within their school. With the level of this, it can also be opened up to 1st graders as well. Another program that we will have in October is our EnergySmart Home Energy Kits. This is something provided through Southwest Gas. So if you are a 4th grade teacher that works within a county that is serviced by Southwest Gas, you can definitely sign up for this. What happens is we will send you an entire home energy savings kit with actual hardware that students can install in their houses, such as faucet aerators, shower head aerators, a shower timer, like refrigerator thermometers, just simple ways to improve saving water in the house, as well as kind of measuring to make sure that you're not wasting energy. This is completely free. We will send you like the entire kit, as well as if you would like, we kind of offer the option for us to join your class virtually and do an unboxing in front of the students, since unboxing videos are very popular with students these days. That is a program that happens once again in the fall for 4th grade. There is a QR link to sign up for any of these programs, whereas the link that I dropped in the chat is specifically for the theater program. We also have a PSA contest. For the high school level, we offer a PSA infographic contest where high schoolers are challenged to research different ways to different ways on how they can save energy, and then create a call to action by creating this infographic and informing their community how they can save energy. And then there is a video contest for middle schoolers that is also a PSA contest, where middle schoolers basically create a short 2-minute video on ways that they can save energy, and they're encouraged to do that in any way. Last year, our winning videos were, I believe someone wrote a song, another person did a stop motion video, and another one, it was basically almost like slides, but they put to a video, a song parody. And our final program is also for high schoolers. It is the EnergySmart Ambassador Program, and that is the program that Monica is spearheading. So I will go ahead and let her cover that one.
Yeah, thank you so much, Shauna. Just before I dive into that, because I have a flyer that I'll show you on the next slide, I'll just quickly talk about professional development. So thank you all for attending this professional development session. We're very happy to have you here. We appreciate all of your feedback. Yeah, and we hope that you take this information, apply it, or implement it in your classroom, and you have a lot of fun with you and your students. Additionally, DRI will be hosting future professional developments as well. So we have, we'll potentially host more online sessions or trainings. But we do host in-person ones. We have a Reno campus, and we also have a Las Vegas campus, as you saw in the photos. We are planning on collaborating with Green Our Planet for an October training on hydroponics at our Las Vegas location. So we'll be sending out information about that soon. And yeah, as the year goes on, we're hopefully going to be hosting a training at least once a quarter, and this will be a program that will have consistent professional development opportunities. So as long as we have your email addresses in the pre and post surveys, we'll be happy to reach out to you and share those those opportunities with you. On the Las Vegas campus, it's really exciting for us as well, because this past year we developed a STEM collab space with some federally appropriated funds. So we have a really great space that we're able to use, and we're excited to host in-person professional development sessions there, and we hope to see you there. So that's professional development. So just keep an eye out on any emails that we send you. We'll be sharing those opportunities as they come up. But additionally, as Shauna mentioned, this is a new program that we are implementing this year. It's called our Community Energy Ambassadors Project. So I just put the link to, so there's a QR code here, but I also put a link to the application form in the chat. And so this is going to happen from now until May of 2024, but it's broken up into 2 semesters. So in the first semester, from September to December, the students will be identifying a locally relevant conservation project that they would like to do. So we are asking that the students have an adult mentor, and then it's a team of students that are working together to identify a conservation project. And in the fall, from September to December, they're just going to be really doing the planning of it and creating some sort of presentation to go along with it. So this could be a bulletin board, a display, a song, an art installation, video, whatever the students really are inspired to create. It's up to them. So what the project is totally up to them. We just ask that it's locally relevant. And then how they develop it is also up to them. And we're really hoping that they utilize their talents and interests to do this so that, you know, it increases their engagement and excitement about the program. And then from January to May, it'll be the implementation phase. So hopefully the students will implement the program in their local community, and then as well, DRI and NV Energy will be teaming up with the students to have them come out to events and I guess display or share their project in person with our wider Nevada community. So this is a statewide project for high school students, and additionally, DRI faculty will be there to support along the way. There will be quarterly meetings with DRI faculty to discuss resources, you know, address any challenges, help with implementation, talk about, you know, what kind of funding sources might need to be utilized, or the project can be really small. It can be a very simple thing, or it could be very large. And if it was very large and complex and it did require funding, then we would be there to help identify like how much funding is necessary and what kind of funding sources could we reach out to make this happen for the students. And then at the end, in April-ish, the students will turn in their final summary of the project, and then it will go to a team of local judges or statewide judges, and there will be a winner will be awarded as with a prize and statewide recognition. So we are currently recruiting for this project. Applications close September 15th. So if you're a high school teacher and you think that this would be exciting for you and your students to participate in, we encourage you to apply. The next thing that I'll just talk about, another resource that DRI has to offer, is our Green Box program. So our Green Box program is for K to grade 12 teachers and classrooms and students. It is each green box. So the green box is a green suitcase that you can rent out from us, basically. And each green suitcase is specific to a grade level. So there's a kindergarten set of green boxes, a grade 1 set of green boxes, etc. And in each green box, there is basically a unit that's covered. So all of the background information on the lesson plans, the career ties, the lessons themselves, lesson plans themselves, and then all of the materials from the pencils to the robots, for example, are in the green box. So you check it out from us, we ship it to you. You have about 6 weeks to utilize it in your classroom. And then when you're finished, or when the period is up, the quarter is up, you just put on the returning shipping label and you send it back to us. So this is a completely free resource for Nevada teachers. And quarter 2 registration is now open. It opened September 5th. So we encourage you to visit the website and check out the green boxes that are available. So if you go to the website, you can see, for example, if you're a 3rd grade teacher, you can go and you can look at what are the themes of the lessons. You can dive into a lot more of the details on what is included in the green box. And then you can determine maybe quarter 2 works for you. So quarter 2 would be October 9th to November 30th. So you can register to have a green box for that period, or maybe you can plan to have it either in the spring or in the early summer quarters. So all of the information is here. I know Shauna put the website into the chat. So, oh, cool, you just reserved yours. That's awesome. Yeah, and so these are all NGSS aligned as well. So yeah, we're excited that you're excited, Samantha. If you have additional questions, so if you go to the website, all of the information is there and you can reserve the green boxes directly. If you do, oh, Nancy signed up for theater, cool. If you do have any questions, you can reach out to greenbox@dri.edu and they would be happy to answer your questions. So if you have anything, maybe if you want to have 2 different, maybe if you want to have a grade 2 and a grade 4 green box at the same time because you're a specialist or something like that, you can email them and they can help you work out a way to have that. So that's the email address, but otherwise, if your request is straightforward, you can just visit the website and all of the information is there. And I think that brings us to the end. So the last thing that we'll ask you to do is just fill out our post survey. You can scan the QR code, or we will just quickly drop it in the chat. And again, this is our internal. I saw that Heather put an evaluation link in the chat. You guys are going to have like so many, there's so many links in this chat, which is great. You have access to all of the resources, but I do just want to note that Heather put an evaluation link, and an attendance link. So if you wouldn't mind filling that out for Heather, and then we just dropped in a post survey. So that's our internal way to just know how we're doing, if this was beneficial, if we can improve. And yeah, if you would attend another DRI professional development session. And then the last thing, so as you all are filling out that, the last link that we have to share with you is the folder with all of the resources from the training. So as I mentioned previously, this PowerPoint presentation is in there. The Bell Web House Design Challenge is in there, the material list, the standards for elementary, middle, and high school, as well as some Nevada energy resource documents, and some of the flyers. So the flyers for the EnergySmart program and the Community Energy Ambassador Project. We encourage you to share any of the flyers. So these resources are for all Nevada teachers. So we encourage you to share with anyone that you think would be interested. So yeah, please share resources. We're happy to work with all of you and support you however we can. And so the last slide is our thank you slide. I'm also going to drop Shauna. I said that was the last thing, but this isn't a link. It's just information. I'm just going to drop Shauna and I's email addresses into the chat. So if you, if you want to reach out, if you have any questions, if you want to get in contact with any of our teacher presenters or anything like that, please feel free to reach out to Shauna and I, and we'd be happy to chat with you and help you however we can. So thank you, everybody. We have 3 minutes left. So if anybody has any questions or would like to share anything, please do.
And I just want to thank you for your time and for the teachers' time, coming and sharing what worked in your classrooms. There's nothing more a teacher appreciates than a teacher voice in a presentation. So thank you. Thank you, all of you, for being here today on a Saturday. For the participants in the group, we'll just refresh my link so that you have it. Particularly if you need attendance points for hours for attending today, make sure you complete our evaluation and the attendance link, because that is how the folks on our team creating those certificates will decide to issue you a certificate. My other kind of general service announcement to the world is that the Presidential Awards for Excellence in Math and Science Teaching in grades K-6, the nomination period is currently open. So I'm going to put that link in the chat. Everyone's going to get to hear this from me today. Please nominate the great grades K-6 elementary math and science teachers you know that are doing great things in their math instruction, science, computer science, engineering work. Encourage them to compete, nominate them. If you are that great teacher, please click great. Don't wait for someone to nominate you. Do it today. Nominations are open until January 8th, but the sooner someone is nominated, the sooner they can start working on their application. So give them that gift of time with an early nomination so they have plenty of time to revise and work on and submit their best work. And with that, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for being here today. I'm going to turn off the recording.
Thank you, everyone.